Hello, everyone. Well, let me start by telling you a story. A story of like 10 years ago when I shifted from Calcutta to move to Noida with a very fancy job, okay, with a fancy designation of managing director, a fat paycheck, fantastic apartment. And we all just moved and we were so happy, to go there, and I was definitely very happy. And my card, of course, wrote MD. But let me tell you the part where my son introduces me to his friends. He says, "This is my mom, Chaitali Moitra, but the MD stands for manic depressive." Funny, right? I mean, yes, I was a manic depressive. The first 3 years it went by, and every day I became worse. And it just became worse and worse day by day. So, I just wanted to take through and talk about, so sorry. When pressure replaces, this is what was happening to me. I had endless meetings. I was absolutely overwhelmed with work. I think some of you can relate to that. I didn't want to be where I was. I hated getting up in the morning and going to office because all I knew was that, okay, I had one emergency operation to another, though I was not a doctor. And frankly, I was feeling so overwhelmed that I felt that there was something, that was missing in my life. I was losing control. I was being controlled by my circumstances, by my emotions, my anger, my fear, and believe you me, it just didn't stay at work. It went home also. And that is when, I felt, like Martin Luther, says, and I love this saying, that you don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step. I had to identify what I really wanted. And I did that. Because I realized that my operating system was crashing. And I had no more control of what I was doing. So that is when, the part comes when you decide to choose an alternative path. And guess what I did? I quit. But it's not easy. And it was not easy. Because I had to have a plan. I had to have an alternative solution. Of course, I know there are times when all of you also probably feel very overwhelmed with what you have to do and probably under a lot of pressure, and you don't have the opportunity to quit, but there's always the alternative solution that one thinks of. And I did that. But then, the problem was that my whole life has been in either training, English literature, or it was in publishing. So what do? I realized that I have to choose an alternative. I have to take, first of all, I have to recreate my system for a better life. I have to reboot my system. And that's exactly what I started doing. I realized that I wanted to do something which excited me. I wanted to learn something. I wanted to grow because I was totally at a stagnant situation in my life. And that is when I thought of education technology. And believe you me, it was difficult because I didn't know anything about education technology. The first thing I did was I joined an higher education institution to take care of two of their main institutions. One was dealing with, of course, management degrees and engineering degrees. And another one, of course, was dealing with fashion. So it gave me a lot of scope to learn about higher ed sector. But then COVID struck. So again the question came, what do? Do I stay on bench or do I move on? And I'm like, no, I want to be in education technology. Now I know about higher ed. So let me explore more alternatives. And the most important part is exploring your alternatives, is searching for the right direction. Which road do I take? I had to first of all take control of my own life. I started getting back into yoga. I'd put on a lot of weight, so I started running again. I started shooting some baskets. And I started learning about LMS, what is Learning Management System, how is technology helping bridge the gap. I really started reading up and took up an assignment as a freelancer first and then a consultant in an edtech firm. And I really enjoyed that part of my life because I chose a direction. I started taking control. It's not like life was easy. It wasn't. Because definitely, the paycheck was not fat anymore. It was quite lean. And of course, then, my children were both abroad and they were stuck abroad because COVID had happened. So that was a worrying situation. Then my father-in-law, who I loved dearly, had passed away. So that was again another situation we had to cope. Then on top of that, 2 other brother-in-laws passed away. My husband's 2 brothers. So it was a very dreadful situation that I was going through, and then I lost my mom. So I was like, how bad can it get? But I did not let the situation control me anymore. Because I was in control of my emotions. And that's very important, because once you control your emotions, you reboot your system, you explore the alternative, and as you say, if you read what Walt Disney has to say, we keep moving forward, opening new doors and doing new things because we're curious. And curiosity keeps leading us down new paths. It's very important to be curious. It's very important to want to change. It may be an alternative, like you might be overwhelmed with everything that you do. Maybe it's like you have to get up 1 hour early. Maybe you need to go and actually seek the help from that you want to. Maybe you don't want to go to the teacher and ask for help, but maybe you need to do that. Maybe you need to be open and speak to your parents. But somewhere down the line, we have to take actions. And then only can we take command of our life. See, the operating system that I rebooted did have virus. It's not that it didn't have it. But I had to overcome the virus. I had to have the confidence in myself and my ability to overcome. And that happens. And that's when we start recreating your system. And yes, this is me. I finally took the Bijli Mahadev track in Himachal Pradesh, and I didn't go trekking for a long time, so the number of stairs I had to climb was unimaginable, and I'm quite old. I'm way past 55, 56, 57 rather. I don't want to mention my age, but I had to recreate my system, and I could see that, okay, I can actually take that walk. I can actually take those steps, which I never thought I could. And that is when I realized that focus on your mindset and growth. That is the most important part. You can do anything that you choose to do if you do that. And guess what? The magic happened. I got Turnitin. I know not many of you would love us, but Turnitin did help me align with what I wanted to do. That is to really deliver learning outcomes which are substantial and in the long run beneficial for the students. And that's what I always wanted to do. I've always believed in integrity, and it kind of aligned with my vision, my choice, and it eventually happened. It took time, but it did happen. And I'm frankly very happy, and I'm in a remote first environment, so I could come back to my hometown, which is again something my family wanted, and I did it. So that is where, sorry. So that is the ultimate truth. You take command of your emotions. You find your alternatives for a better life. You will have hurdles on the way, but you can overcome them. If you have the confidence in yourself, if you're willing to make those small changes in your life. And it always starts small. And it did, believe you me, in this last 10 years, one thing I've learned is that you can actually recreate your life no matter what age, no matter what your experience is, and no matter what the circumstances are. And that's all I would like to say for today. So all of you, keep that in mind, that you can always control, you can choose the right alternative, and you can recreate your life. Be it you're a student, a worker, a mother, a housewife, whatever you are. Thank you so much.